Hello and welcome to another Kenn7 podcast. And joining me for a chat about the Reds, recent games and the game at the weekend against Wolves is none other than Paul Dalglish. Paul, welcome and thanks for joining me, mate.
No problem, pal.
Well, obviously, we're just off the back of a fantastic result against Everton. I mean, I watched the game at Goodison. It was as comfortable. I mean, how did you see the game, pan out, and what did you think?
To be honest with you, I thought at the beginning we came out flying, and it was a mismatch at the beginning. I mean, we were so dominant, and they were a little bit devoid of ideas. I think when without Calvert-Lewin, they tried to have Rondon be the time, and when they actually went a little bit direct in the end of the first half, towards the end, they got a little bit of momentum. But then when we came out in the second, just killed it again. Just unbelievable. It's just, mate, it's mad. It's like the team is just so. It's just in such a good moment right now, in terms of, especially on the attacking end, that it's just, you just go into games and there's no nerves. Like even going into the derby, there's no nerves. You're just excited to watch the guys play.
Did you think, I mean, obviously you mentioned it there, that first 20 minutes, we were relentless and we were like a machine, weren't we, just creating chances at will. I actually thought a little bit before they scored their goal, I could see them high pressing and doing it in teams and doing it with intensity. It was all quite, they were sprinting to do the press. And I thought that had an effect and we struggled to adjust to that. Whether that was going to culminate in a goal or not, it might have just been coincidence. But did you see any of that at all?
Everton pressing.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And Liverpool played through the pressure a few times, though, Gav. It's when you hear the crowd getting the crowd. I think there was a few tackles. The Goodison crowd loved that. They loved the aggression. Everton started playing like Everton should play, in my opinion. I mean, that's the way Everton should play. Horrible, aggressive, physical. That for me is the identity of Everton. And when they started playing like that, they were a little bit better. But when you start getting, when you get the next goal, they just capitulated again, didn't they? And it was just a complete mismatch between standards. And it was funny listening to Rafa after the game say, "Oh, Liverpool have spent, this team spent all this money." If you look at the net spend between Liverpool and Everton have spent a lot of money as well. Everton have just spent shite.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I don't know whether they were restricted in the summer on who they signed, because they signed Townsend on a free, Rondon on a free, I think, and Damari Gray for like 1.7 million. So that made me think, well, maybe they couldn't spend any money. But prior to that, wow. Yeah. I mean,
it should be. If financial fair play actually means anything, they've spent loads of dough and not brought any in. We've spent loads of dough, but brought loads of dough in. So at the end of the day, if financial fair play works, then they shouldn't have been able to spend money.
And there's another thing of like most of our players have increased in value since we've signed them, even the expensive ones. Yeah. Whereas I think at Everton, they've signed players on the way down. So it's players coming from bigger clubs to come to Everton. I know that sounds like I'm being a bit out of order, but it is. You look at Iwobi, you look at Walcott. Were they ever really going to elevate them to another level?
Yeah, but then there's a flip side to that as well. Like I think Allen and Decore, they're decent. They're decent players. So there's a little bit of both, mate. Mina was obviously out from the game. You can say what you want about him, but the way I look at it, Gav, is you talk about players increasing in value, and yes, Ian Graham and the rest of the analytical team, and then Barry as well with the scouting department. Michael Edwards as well, who's leaving now. They deserve a huge amount of credit. But what you've got to remember is if you just bring somebody, you're not bringing these players into a vacuum. You've got to give an unbelievable amount of credit to the manager as well for the environment that he's created for these players to improve. Like if you look at it, I don't care who it is, you can go through almost our whole team And every single player that's come into Liverpool's environment has improved from the environment that they were in. And that's all credit to the manager. You know, you look, we haven't got many wrong. I mean, even like the two that we've probably got wrong were the two kind of emergency signings last year, the two centre-backs that we brought in, Kabak and what's his face. It was, but to be honest with you, even the left back that's coming, done great when called upon. You know, done great, and it is an absolute credit to the manager and the rest of the coaching staff.
Let me just digress there away from Liverpool, but obviously you've been a manager. How hard is it to create that sort of culture and that environment for players, for basically to get the best out of players?
Well, all you can do is maintain the standards. The players create that environment themselves. So one of the most important things you can do is have good senior players that don't let the standards slip. All you can do is maintain it and remind people of when it drops below that. You can tell them the expectations that you've got, and then maintain the standards. But it's really the senior players that are going to implement it. And then if the senior players are doing it, then the other players follow. But it's really, really difficult to do that without the buy-in of the senior players. And that's why when you look at Liverpool, they I know it sounds cliche, but they've never signed a superstar. You know, maybe Thiago's maybe the closest they've ever come to signing, you know, a true superstar.
Well, there was still question marks over Van Dijk when we signed Van Dijk. I know he was 75 million, but a lot of people were coming out going, too much for him.
I think that's it. I think when you come to Liverpool, you've got to hand over your ego as an individual and sacrifice yourself to the team. And some people find it easier than others. And I think that Jurgen understands that. The thing about Jurgen is he knows exactly who he is. He knows exactly what he needs for him to play the type of football that he wants to play. And that includes what type of personality you need. Because it's not, you can bring in a collection of good players, Gav, but if you've not got the right mindset, then you've got no chance. And I think that's why, he values the Lallanas. We may be looking from the outside and say, Lallana's not really played that much, but he was loved by Jurgen Klopp, Milner, Henderson. These guys, the one thing that they do is, you can even tell that from the outside looking in, is they set the standard every day. And then what happens is when you bring in a player from an environment that wasn't of that standard in terms of intensity and training every day, then they improve. But it's a really fine line with Liverpool between improving and getting injured, because it's hard.
It's interesting that you say that especially about Henderson. If you sit where I sit in the stadium when I go to watch them, I'm right behind Jurgen Klopp, but I'm also not far from the line. And the berating that Henderson gives Trent, he's on Trent Alexander-Arnold's case all the time. Trent! All the time. You actually feel sorry for Trent because he's just getting it all the time. And that's part of that thing that you're talking about. It's like, who's doing? I was watching him go, who's doing that when Henderson's not on the pitch? Who's keeping them on the toes? Who's not letting anything slip? Who's telling them when they've done something wrong so they don't do it again? And I think that's what you're on about, isn't it? The senior pros.
100%, Gav, because if you're playing at Anfield, it was different during COVID, but if you're playing at Anfield and there's 55,000 in the stadium, you can't hear the manager. Unless you're right by the dugout, you can't hear the manager, so it can't be the manager. It's got to be the players, because they're the only ones close enough to get the message on. I mean, that's why you see now managers giving players pieces of paper. Because you can't, if you're on the other side of the pitch, you just can't hear.
Of course. Before we move on to the Wolves game, what have you thought of our season so far?
I'm a fan at the moment. It's like I just love watching us play. And the biggest compliment I can give, well, not the biggest compliment, but a compliment I can give them is I don't really care about the outcome, because I just enjoy the kickoff, knowing that the boys are going to give it a right good go and entertain. And to be honest with you, if we lose, I'm all right.
Have you ever felt like that before?
No,
I don't remember feeling like that.
No, but it's like you believe in the manager 100%. You believe in the players 100%. You're up against Man City and Chelsea, who are brilliant teams. But this team never lets you down. And for me, that's the key for me as a fan. If you're going to support someone, it's like a family member. And that's the way I always want my teams to be. You'll win games, you'll lose games. But as long as you can feel a connection with the team, then that's all that matters, really. Because you're going to lose games. But this team, if they're going to lose, they've gone down on the sword. And that's all you ever ask.
It's important, especially for Scousers. We relate to that, don't we? There's a working class ethos, obviously, from the city and everything. But we relate to that hard working and well, don't worry, lads, you give it your best sort of attitude.
Yeah, life goes on. You know what I mean? Nothing like that. We will always deal with adversity, Liverpool fans. As long as we believe in the people that are going, as long as we believe in the people. And the manager he's incredible. He's incredible. Absolutely incredible. He's perfect. Like even last year when the results weren't great, for a spell, no point were you thinking, oh, we need to make a change here or we need new players. Everyone went, do you know what? I trust him. And I trust the players. It'll turn round eventually. Once we get the centre-backs back, it'll all turn round. And it did. And it's a brilliant, especially in today's society with, the knee-jerk reaction to everything. It's an amazing time to be a Liverpool fan. But it's not always been like this, Gav.
No.
It's not always been like, you've been going into games as a Liverpool fan over the period of being a Liverpool fan and gone, like almost expecting us to do something disastrous. And it's always like self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Because you're so annoyed with certain things that are going on. Like in your head, you're going, this is going to be shit. Yeah, I told you. Yeah,
well, I said that it was going to be like that. As if that makes any difference and it's going to make anyone feel any better. It really isn't.
That's how we felt for years.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone's self-fulfilling prophecy was different.
And we had a bit of that last season as well, didn't we? I mean, it's night and day this season to last. Obviously, there's mitigating circumstances.
Yeah, but the other thing, maybe it'd have been a little bit different if there was people in the stadium, last year. But I think it's such an advantage for us. I mean, even the Liverpool fans in the Everton game. I mean, all the humour's back as well. All the humour's back. Like Rafa's at the wheel, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Like that was because Liverpool fans. I remember back when I first started going to the game, we were so dominant that Liverpool fans would try and think of something funny to sing during a game. And that's back as well. It's amazing. It's like it genuinely reminds me. The last few years have reminded me of like why I fell in love with Liverpool in the first place.
I like that. That's good. We've got Wolves obviously Saturday 3:00. Wolves are currently 8th. They're on 21 points. They've had 5 losses, 3 draws, 6 wins. In the last 3 games, the last 2 games have been a draw. But they actually beat West Ham, who obviously beat us about 3 games ago. No, because I was going to ask you a question and I just forgot. Before I get on to talking about the Wolves game, I've just done Jurgen's press conference, so I've just done my little 60-second video. And if you haven't seen it, you don't know what I'm talking about. Check it out on the YouTube channel.
It's a long time. 60 seconds.
Jurgen said in his press conference, which was interesting, he said the best thing that's happened to us recently is West Ham beat us.
I get that. I get that because what it does is it's sometimes the little kick up the backside you need, a little reminder that you need. Sometimes you need to feel a little bit of pain to get the hunger back. And maybe that as long as you can turn that disappointment into motivation, it can be a good thing. And that's why you in football you win or you learn. And they've probably gone, do you know what? we took our foot off the gas a little bit there. We need to get back to who we are. And they've done it. They're back with a bang. You know, it's every game we're looking like. But what was it? How many games is it now that we scored 2 goals consecutive games?
18, I think.
Incredible.
17 before the Everton game, I think.
Incredible. So I don't think there was too much of a problem before West Ham. It's funny though, isn't it? It's like maybe it's just defensively really that we've been so good going forward but it's like Benitez said, didn't he? He said playing football is like sleeping in a bed with a blanket that's too small. He said if you want to keep feet warm, your head's going to be cold. If you want to keep head foot warm, your feet's going to be cold, and you've just got to choose. And listen, I don't mind giving up a few goals playing an attractive brand of football, because I do think if we get involved in a shootout, we're going to win most of them.
And it's not like Kevin Keegan's Newcastle, though, is it? To be fair, we've got a good defence. We've got a world-class goalkeeper. There's a good about might be the odd game. I mean, he was talking specifically about the West Ham game, and he said we deserve more out of that game, but we gave them too many set pieces. Yeah, and he said that's what we've worked on since. And we've usually been good at set pieces, haven't we, for the last few years? And there hasn't been a major thorn in our side. Not like historically, where we've always been shit at set pieces and corners. It was obviously something that he felt like he had to adjust to. So, from looking at Wolves, I mean, what do you think we are to expect from Wolves on Saturday?
Well, it's if Traore and how do I say his name? Hwang, is it Hwang? Yeah. If those two play, they've both got pace, haven't they? So and they've got pace in wide areas. So if we're sending both fullbacks forward at the same time, then we've got to be really careful in transition with their pace. Now, the thing that we've got is we've probably got 3 of the most athletic centre-backs, or 4 if you include Gomez in that as well, in the Premier League. So that allows us to limit the effect of the pace that they're going to have in the wide areas. But, I mean, Traore he's ridiculously quick and strong. But we've just got to be careful. I think we'll dominate the ball as usual. But it's about making sure that we've got players in a position to stop transition and limit their threat. And that there's a couple of ways you can do that. So if Traore's in a wide area, right, and you make the service to him straight, then he's coming backwards to receive the ball. So if he's getting played by the wing back in a wide area, then his touch is going to be backwards, which limits his threat. Whereas if the ball's coming from the central areas and it's diagonal passes, he can then get in behind. So it's going to be really important defensively that we control the middle of the pitch and not allow diagonal service so they can use the pace. And I think if we limit that, then we I don't really see them having too much else that can cause us problems.
What are the challenges for a Liverpool team playing against a back 3 or a back 5? Because obviously they play 3-4-3 or have done for the last few weeks. What do you see the challenges being for us?
Well, if any team's brave enough to put their 3 defenders up against our front 3, good luck. So what's going to happen is, and Liverpool have done quite well historically against back 3s. Or back 5s, whichever way you want. But I'd like to think that they wouldn't be, even at home, they wouldn't be reckless enough to just leave 3 against 3. So what that then does, if it becomes a back 5, then that means we've got a 3v5 in the final third, which means we've got a dominance in the first 2 lines. Mm-hmm. So that means in the first 2 lines, we've got a 7 versus 5. Mm-hmm. So we should be able to control the game if we can push them back with 3. And look, normally it's Liverpool. Normally, a lot of times only have 1 up, sometimes 2 up, and then Mane drops in. If it's Firmino, he drops in. Jota drops in. Salah drops in at times. As long as they've got 1 keeping their back 3, back 5 back, then you can get even more of a dominance between the lads. And then with the ability of the Thiago and Henderson's passing to try to then break the lines, get in behind with the movement of Jota and Salah and Mane. I just don't see any other outcome than a Liverpool win.
If you're enjoying this video so far, please show your support for the Kenn7 channel by clicking the subscribe button, the like button, and also clicking the bell for future notifications. If you could also share the video on your Twitter and Facebook account, that will show YouTube's algorithm that you like our content. Do you know about Kenn7 merchandise? The link is in the description of this video. We have premium fanwear for fans covering Liverpool, Celtic and Scotland, and it's fanwear for young and old, so we have t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, caps, mugs, you name it, we've got it. Just something else to remember, every purchase that is made on our website, we donate to the Marina Dalglish appeal, so you're helping a great cause as well.
I mean, obviously we're talking about Wolves, so we got Diogo Jota from Wolves. How surprised, or how have you expected his performances and his form to be, what they have been, or were you completely surprised by what we've seen from him?
I think the best thing about him, and if you look at the Liverpool model, what they've done is they've brought in Diogo Jota because he can play in all three front positions. So that allows you to be more efficient with the money that you spend. So if you bring somebody in, if you brought in a number 9 and he can only play as a number 9, well, what happens if you need to give Salah a rest or you need to give Mane a rest? So the fact that he could play all three was a huge reason why they brought him in. I think I liked him at Wolves, and I think I saw Jurgen say that when he saw him playing for Wolves, he was watching him, saying with his energy and his qualities that he could see he could be his type of player one day. So he's always had those qualities when he was at Wolves. He's just in a far better team now, where he gets much more opportunities to showcase what he can do. I mean, he does well when he plays for the national team as well, right? When he's playing with decent players. So I think the biggest way to assess him is, well, obviously his goals before he got injured last year, and then we actually missed him.
Yeah.
When he got injured last year, we really missed him, and then now he's back. You're seeing what effect he can have, and the fact that we've got 4 that can all play and score does 2 things. 1, it allows you to rotate, but 2, it keeps people on the toes. If I'm not scoring, I might be the one left out. And then even if we want to play all 4 of them, sometimes we could go with a 4-2-3-1 for a change. So it's not really surprised, no, Gav. Not really surprised. We don't really make mistakes in the transfer market. We don't really make mistakes, mate. Everyone that we signed, everyone was going, "Oh, we needed to get Werner," and we got Jota instead. But every transfer we've made, Gav, when it's been a thought out one, not an emergency one, I can't think of one that hasn't worked.
You can't help thinking that Werner would have been fine at our place, and that's almost the difference.
I think so. Yeah, I think he would have been. He'd come into the environment and be good. And I don't think you can. But you never know, do you? You never know. You never know.
What do you think? So you think we'll win on Saturday? Yeah. What's your score prediction?
I think we'll definitely score more than two or more. You know what I mean? But I think, mate, honestly, we were so good against Everton. We've got plenty of time to recover from the game. Comfortable. Just whether we can keep a clean sheet, that's the only thing. But I'm thinking 3-0, 3-1, something like that.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Thanks, mate. Well, listen, thanks for joining us. Obviously, we've had a little chat and we are going to try and get together and do some more tactical type podcasts, aren't we? Coming at it very much more from the nuts and bolts of the game and how the team's set up and all that sort of stuff. I know that's the type of stuff that you enjoy. So if you're watching this, look out for that. We haven't thought of a name for it yet, but we will do. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for us. Paul, thanks very much for your time, pal, and I'll speak to you soon. Enjoy your weekend.